Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Chris from Feldgrau Productions, and it is time for the 10mm War Master and Fantasy September 2022 Roundup. Now that we are into fall and the summer is done, a lot of creators who were taking a break are back. So let's see all the great stuff coming out this month, September, on Patreon and other platforms. Now, normally we'd start off with Forest Dragon, but September Forest Dragon is actually taking off. So we are starting with Greenskin Miniatures and their Kings of the Sand Army. This month includes a second Lich Priest Hero sculpt, a Skull Chukka Artillery, and Skeleton Cavalry with swords and spear options, of course also with command, and they are all armed with shields. This should really give you a draw if you like the Tomb Kings in Total War Warhammer 2, Total War Warhammer 3, or of course classic Warhammer on the tabletop. Following Greenskin Miniatures, we have Onmyoji. Now you can see we have the Blood Goddess on her War Altar, as well as some elite bodyguards there. However, the actual big announcement for Onmyoji this month is that there will be no more 10mm strips going forward. Onmyoji is abandoning the traditional War Master strips and instead going to focus on individual sculpts scaled by default to 15mm. Now, this will still allow people to rescale to 10mm. It's not a big jump there. And to make rescaling easier, Onmyoji is also including Lychee files, which will be pre-supported. So rescaling the Lychee files will not rescale the supports, which would happen if you rescaled a pre-supported STL. Now, because of the ease of rescaling 15mm to 10mm and Onmyoji's existing place in the 10mm community, I am going to continue to include them in this roundup while making a note of the slightly different scale. And in fact, if you have any 15mm STL suggestions that would fit the 10mm world, please let me know in the comments below. After Onmyoji going back to 10mm, we had Red Nebular. These 10mm scale Reptar auxiliaries are giving me some Lizardman vibes without being the traditional GW style, and they are meant to accompany his Frogland force. So you could definitely do something a little bit different if you wanted to. Now we have Tordominis continuing to crank out tons of 10mm figures, this month focusing a little bit on one particular army, that's the Ethereal Covenant, including some Manta Screamers, Grim Reapers, an Ethereal Chariot, Cursed Souls, Broken Swords, and Rat Ghosts, which I apologize, you do not appear to have made this page. So if you go to Patreon or his My Mini Factory page, you will be able to see more renders of all of these figures. Rounding out all of the Patreon releases is Varus Miniatures. Now, September is starting a new release cycle for Varus Miniatures. The way Varus works is he releases figures more slowly, but only builds once every couple of months. So you will get all the miniatures for multiple months as long as you sign up during that time period. The first release in this new cycle is the set of Greenskin Shamans, including a boar-mounted orc, a non-boar-mounted orc, which I think is my favorite, especially with the etching on that bone totem, or a little bit of competition from Crazy Lightning Eye Goblin Shaman, which I also do believe comes with a non-Crazy Lightning Eye variety. Well, still crazy, just not lightning eyes. Check out their Patreon or Gumroad for more details on these figures. Moving on to the non-Patreon releases, we are going to start out with a little bit of good news, bad news. And the good news is Ankylo put out some new stuff, and the bad news is, unfortunately, Ankylo's new Kickstarter, Halflings, slipped in between my prior video and this one and are not currently available. You can't late pledge it as far as I'm aware, and it's not on their Gumroad. Now that is as of September 23rd, 2022, so if you're watching this in the future, these figures might now be available, but until then, I'm not sure. Good news, however, you can pick up a special Halfling and Monster bonus pack on their Gumroad. I believe this is a collection of stretch goals that didn't quite make it to the original Kickstarter, but people still wanted them. I'm going to make a special note of a shout out for that Snorri Nosebiter Dwarven Slayer sculpt. How do I know it's Snorri Nosebiter? He's got 3 nails in his head. It's pretty obvious, and I just finished reading the Gotrek and Felix books for the very first time about a month ago, so I've got Mr. Nosebiter on the mind. After Ankylo, we have Cromarty Forge with an entire army pack of the mid-Republican Roman army in 10mm. These were previously available in the slightly sveltier and taller 15mm, but now are preferred 10mm scale, or at least mine. These figures are suitable for the Punic Wars, made famous by, of course, Hannibal and his Alps, but also the Pyrrhic War. And if you're interested in the Pyrrhic War, you can head on over to the YouTube channel Little Wars TV, which just completed an awesome 5-part series of a custom Pyrrhic War campaign where they refought both the war and some of the battles. And also they just released a documentary about the Pyrrhic Wars. Now back to Cromarty Forge. The sculpts included here include a command pack, Roman cavalry, Triarii, Principes, Hastatii, Velites, and some allied Spanish light cavalry. These are not all of the sculpts. These are kind of the standing sculpts. They have more aggressive sculpts that you can see on the Gumroad page for Cromarty. After Cromarty, we've got Polish Lightning Minis. This is their Eastern Dynasty line, and they're continuing to slowly add figures this month, light cavalry with bows and swords. So perfect if you're trying to recreate a little bit of the Cathay faction. And the final non-Patreon option, making a second surprise appearance, is Varus Miniatures again. This is not part of Varus's Patreon. No, this is a brand spanking free figure for anyone who wants it, and a fantastic looking Slayer King. This is a thank you from Varus for 2,000 Instagram followers. So go grab this guy, print him out, and go settle some grudges, because he looks like he is going to take some greenskins' heads right off at the neck. Maybe something a little bigger and more dangerous than a greenskin, of course. Now, we are back. I'm so glad to see that creators are really cranking this month. I'm looking forward to an exciting fall of great 10mm miniatures, and I know I already have way more miniatures that I could possibly paint, but what's stopping me from having more? Actually, the only thing stopping me is more 10mm Lord of the Rings figures. So anyone out there who's working on it or not, give me more 10mm Lord of the Rings figures. You have exactly one customer in me. I can't speak for anybody else, but at least for me, you have one customer. Thanks everybody for watching this month. Leave a comment down below if you know of any creators that I have neglected. And as always, make sure you go out there, keep on printing, keep on painting, and keep on playing.